Welcome to the rebranded podcast. HR with Heart is now the Coherent Leadership podcast, and I'm your host, Jemima House. Clarity in leadership, human-centered action. Today we're talking about the beginning of a movement which has already started toward human-centered leadership, what it really means, and 3 principles that you can use today to make your leadership more human. Principles that go beyond checklists and techniques and that you can apply right now, wherever you lead. The end of performative leadership and the rise of something more human. Now, I've been writing about this for a while, if you follow me on LinkedIn. And I heard someone the other day describe culture as the feeling people get on a Sunday night before work Monday morning. And I think the same thing could be used to measure leadership effectiveness. Leadership as we know it is changing. For a really long time, leadership has meant to tick boxes, to be inspiring, to manage people's behaviour, and essentially to be about control. That definition is changing. What's emerging now is human-centered leadership. Not as a trend, but as a correction. And I have also referenced this in some of my writing as well. The last 200 years or so has been very much about control and regulation in terms of the Industrial Revolution and altering our human behaviour in order to kind of feed the machine, to make money. And whilst that still may be true to some extent, like you may have to get up earlier, go to the office, or those physical things, the shape of leadership is changing, and human-centered leadership is something that can be applied in any context. Today I want to share 3 principles that is going to maybe help you understand what I'm talking about and give you a bit more of a rounded view. They're not instructions, it's not a tick list, it's concepts that inform how you operate. And because I come from a background of nearly 30 years in well-being, I have a really good handle on this because for as long as I can remember, I have been working on the deepest parts of my personality, my spirit, my mind and my body. And I want you to understand this in a way that you can apply, that doesn't feel strange or out of your comfort zone even, but that is really, really applicable and really important. So the first principle I want to talk about is attending to what is alive right now. And this is about awareness, noticing patterns, noticing energy, noticing what's not being said, noticing what is emerging. So not about trying to fix or control, but noticing what is here now. And when I used to do private coaching, that is the question, the silent question that I would be asking myself at the beginning of every session. What is here right now? What can I feel? What can I sense? And what is being shown to me? Leadership is very similar. So it has been historically about acting before we sense, before we see, intervening before we fully understand, almost like a signal of power, proving that we know and that somehow makes us adequate enough to be the boss, rather than trusting. So human-centered leadership flips this on its head. It asks, what's actually happening here? What is the system or the team or this moment asking for? And it's not about knowing what the perfect solution is. You don't need to have the right answer. I know we're all a bit traumatized from school about that, about being called on to give the answer by the teacher and maybe getting it wrong and feeling silly. However, if you didn't need to have the right answer, but you just needed to be present enough to see clearly, what might be possible then? Because if you don't see clearly, then the moment passes you by. And that is when leadership becomes reactive rather than generative. So if you want to keep a handle on what's going on, you do need to have enough self-trust to know that whatever arises, it's going to be okay. So can you notice the alive part of a meeting or a conversation? Even if it feels at first like a conflict or an argument, at least it's alive. Watch what's coming up. Watch what is emerging before you step in. That awareness on its own changes the dynamic because people feel seen. And then possibility opens. So principle number 2, which is something I always talked about in private coaching, which is create the conditions, don't control the people. People aren't there to be controlled. You wouldn't really want to anyway, even if you had that capability. So this is where lots of leaders get stuck, thinking that leadership is about managing individuals, directing behavior, or micromanaging outcomes. Human-centered leadership doesn't work that way. It works at the level of conditions. The environment that you shape and the norms that you set, the interactions that you allow, like, yes, I give my full agreement to this, or no, that's not acceptable. These are far more powerful than anything that you can do to control anybody else. And again, in order to trust other people's capabilities, you have to trust your own. You cannot create conditions that allow people to flourish if you're anxious, reactive, or needing control to feel safe. When you operate from a grounded self-trust, you stop trying to fix everything. You stop directing and you start allowing. And this reduces friction. It gives the room for others to show up fully, for them to make choices and take responsibility. Paradoxically, your influence grows, not because you're controlling, but because you are embodying trust, clarity, and steadiness. People feel that shit. Principle number 3, speak with relational honesty. Human-centered leadership isn't about being superficially nice or performing empathy. It's about being truthful. And to do that, you need to have clarity. And it's also really good if you have integrity. People sense when you're performing. And whilst it might feel safer in the moment to present in a way that you think they want you to present, it actually erodes trust over time. Because people like to know where they are. It's the same as with children. if your rules always change, or if you don't have any rules with children, it's really bad for them. They are fearful, or maybe they act out, or like it's not right. And it's the same in leadership with adult humans. They need clear boundaries. They need straightforward communication. And this is all part of relational honesty. And it does take courage to express your expectations, your disappointment, or to have a disagreement with someone. You do have to be brave. Without retreating into defensiveness or smoothing things over. Do you ever say the thing and then stop and just leave space? It's not easy. It does require presence, and not just you being present with the other person, but you being present with yourself and having the willingness to be seen as being fully human. But when you do this consistently, people experience psychological safety in a way that you just cannot shortcut. And it is not because you are shielding them from difficulty or unpleasantness, but it's because they know where they stand. So to recap, those 3 principles that are really going to support you. Number 1, attend to what is alive right now. Notice the energy, the possibilities, how the system is behaving before acting. Number 2, create the conditions. Don't control the people. Shape the environment. Trust yourself enough to let the outcome emerge, knowing that you're going to be okay no matter what. You're going to handle it. Number 3, speak with relational honesty. Communicate with clarity, integrity, and courage. And you build trust at a human level. Human-centered leadership is not a soft skill. Can we just delete that from our memories, please? It is not a soft skill. It's not an optional extra. Or it's certainly not going to be in the very near future. It's a shift that's already happening, and it's redefining what effective leadership looks like. Leaders who embrace these principles right now are not just doing their jobs differently, they are shaping the future of work and relationships and human potential. It's very exciting. Thank you so much for listening. See you again, same time next week. Bye for now.